Good afternoon, guests. Good afternoon, graduates, and welcome to your Birmingham City University Awards ceremony. While you were waiting, we hope that you enjoyed the musical interlude performed by our Royal Conservatoire Brass Ensemble. Thank you. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful day to celebrate the achievements of our graduates. To ensure you enjoy the proceedings, we have a few requests and announcements. First of all, we are not expecting any testing of the fire alarm or any other disruption today, but if the alarm does sound or if there is an emergency, you'll be given directions to the nearest exit by a door steward so that you can proceed quickly and safely as possible. Secondly, please turn all mobile phones either to silent or switched off completely. We welcome the taking of photos and videos, but if you are doing so, please do not stand or block the view of others in the audience. We have more than 350 students graduating today, and each one who crosses the stage is important to us. Please do clap and cheer as loudly as you would like as your graduand crosses the stage, and allow others to do so without distraction when their graduand is crossing as well. The ceremony is expected to last approximately 1.5 hours. In our experience, small children can become restless during proceedings and sometimes even a little noisy. If your child does become unsettled, can we please ask you to move quietly out of the hall to our comfortable viewing room where you can still watch proceedings and tend to your child in order that they do not distract other guests and graduands from their enjoyment. Your nearest door steward will be able to help you. Graduands, this is important for you. You've been seated carefully and in a particular order to ensure that every person crosses the stage in the correct sequence. Please do stay in your assigned seat, and when you are asked to come out of your row and ready to cross the stage, please do not move out of your assigned order. It is absolutely essential that you are sitting in the seat indicated on your student registration card. If you have moved seats for any reason, now is a good time to get back into it if you don't mind. When you come back into the auditorium, it's likely that you will sit in a different seat. Please be courteous to those still crossing the stage after you by clapping and celebrating their achievements too. Please do not use mobile phones during the ceremony to text or make calls or to distract other graduands from enjoying the proceedings. Our stewards may ask you to put your phone away or perhaps leave the auditorium if you are using your mobile phone. Our graduation ceremonies are formal occasions that do follow a traditional format. They begin with a fanfare, following which the academic procession and the pro-chancellor's procession will enter the hall. At the end of the ceremony, once the pro-chancellor closes proceedings, could I please ask graduates to stand once again and for guests to remain in their places until the procession has exited the hall, after which you will be able to leave and join your party to celebrate your graduates' achievements. Please do enjoy the live music we have and refreshments available on the circle levels of the Symphony Hall foyer. Now we are about to begin. Can I please ask everyone to stand if you are able as the processions enter the hall? Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, and I'm delighted to declare this congregation open. Will you please take your seats, make yourselves comfortable on this warm, glorious day. It's my pleasant duty to preside over this ceremony as Pro-Chancellor of the University, and I'm delighted to be part of such a wonderful celebration of our students' achievements in the presence of families and friends. Will you please now show a warm welcome to our Vice-Chancellor, Professor Philip Plowden, as I call upon him to give the opening address.
Pro-Chancellor, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, but of course, above all of you who are celebrating your graduation today. This is a day that we kind of never thought would come. It's been a long, long time since we have been able to do in-person graduations here at the ICC, and it is such a pleasure to be back in this amazing Symphony Hall here in the heart of Birmingham, the city that we are very proud to call our home. And it doesn't matter how many graduations I do, every graduation is such a pleasure because it is such a special day for each of you who are celebrating. It is a day of celebration for graduates, for the university community which is represented behind me, but above all for the friends, family and supporters who are here. But it does feel like this set of graduations from July and that are running through August are even more special than usual because we haven't been able to do these since January 2020. And many of you, and particularly many of you who are here as friends and family and supporters, have had to make special journeys to come back. And when we started setting up these graduations, we genuinely didn't know whether people would want to come back. And we have been absolutely overwhelmed by the participation. So thank you so much for making that journey. Thank you so much for joining us. It does make these ceremonies very special indeed. And I suppose that is an acknowledgement that for those of you who are celebrating your graduations today, you've had one of the most unusual student journeys any of us will have experienced. So it is a delight to reach a point where we can be here today and we can give you the celebration that you deserve. And I'm delighted that through July and August, we will do what we always promised and give each and every student who's graduated from BCU over the last couple of years the opportunity to participate in a ceremony here in Symphony Hall without restrictions, without compromise, and with those who love and support you all around you. So graduates, this is, of course, your day. But this year, I think above all, we need to start by acknowledging those who have supported you, who have enabled you to get here. It has been an exceptional journey. And around me are some of the staff who've supported you in your learning. And of course, there are many other academic staff and professional support staff who aren't represented on the stage. And they're all as proud of your achievement as you are. But more to the point, all around us in Symphony Hall are your friends and your family and your supporters, the people who, when the going has been tough, and the last couple of years, the going has often been very tough indeed, those are the people who've been there for you in order to support you. So graduates, can I suggest that we start by giving a huge round of applause to everyone who's supported you. Now, often in graduation speeches, what I talk about is the way in which change comes upon us. And indeed, it feels as if change happens faster and faster all around us. But I'm very conscious that I'm talking to a group of graduands who know that only too well. that you've experienced the speed at which the world can be turned upside down, and we have had to change almost everything that we do. Change that has impacted on almost every aspect of your lives and the lives of your families. So you, our graduates, and indeed the rest of our BCU student community understand change only too well. But I hope that despite that challenge, your time at BCU has been memorable for the right reasons as well. And I'm thinking there of the friendships that you have forged, of the communities that you have been part of, as well, of course, as the learning that you have mastered and which we celebrate today. And I hope that as you move on in your careers, you don't ever forget what you have achieved over the last few years. You don't forget your determination, your adaptability, your resilience, because you've demonstrated all of those, and those are great things to have for the future. But the last few years haven't just been about the pandemic. The world around us has, of course, continued to develop, and the university has developed alongside it. From the redevelopment of the Skills Hub down at City South that many of you will have seen, to perhaps the bits of development that you may not have seen, like the redevelopment of the Belmont Works, the iconic building up on Jennings Road in our city centre campus, which has been redeveloped as a home for our interdisciplinary work, where we can bring our long history of engagement with art, design and culture together with our courses around science and technology and maths. And it's great to bring the old Belmont Works building back into use because it's such a symbol of the way in which this university is part of the fabric of the city around us and has been for almost 180 years. And if Birmingham has been hard hit by the last couple of years, and it has, nonetheless, the last couple of weeks, I think, have shown what we as a city are capable of. Such a sense of buzz and excitement. I cannot imagine how the Commonwealth Games could have been any better. And it's been wonderful, genuinely wonderful, to see a city which is often quite self-deprecating, that doesn't like to show away, to see a city performing with such confidence and such style on an international stage. And I hope, if you haven't already taken a selfie with the now iconic bull, you get out there and get one before today is done. And of course, the bull sits against a backdrop of developments across Centenary Square, whether it's the library, whether it's Paradise Circus, whether indeed it's the wonderful developments here at Symphony Hall. It just feels like it's a great time to be in Birmingham. And because BCU is so deeply part of the city, it's probably no surprise to learn how deeply embedded we were in the games themselves. And I'm conscious that many of you here may have been volunteers, you may have been spectators, you may have been working at the games. But alongside that, our students were deeply engaged as well. From the costume design students who designed the costumes for the opening event of the Birmingham 2020 Festival, the students in our iconic School of Jewellery up in the Jewellery Quarter who designed the medals that were handed out at the Commonwealth Games. 2 alumna from the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire who sang the national anthem in the opening ceremony and who sang in the closing ceremony. It all just goes to reinforce our mission as the university for Birmingham and underlines that rich creative heritage. And the last couple of years have just made clear why what happens in universities is so important. The role of research, of knowledge creation, the role of new understandings of practice, of how we work. And nothing could bring this more vividly to life than the speed at which new vaccines were developed to help moderate the impact of the recent pandemic. Before the pandemic, there was something of a hostility towards experts. What do they know after all? But I think we come out of the pandemic with a sense that knowledge has never been more important. And that's something that each of you provides evidence of as you celebrate today. And that's why the ceremony today is so important, and why all of us at BCU were so committed to ensuring that you would have the chance to celebrate in person. Because it's right that we put on these formal gowns. It's right that we gather in a formal ceremony to recognise what you have achieved. Because graduates are important. In every society, you, are important. The research tells us that graduates live longer, graduates are more productive, graduates contribute more to society around them, they're more likely to volunteer, to vote, to lead. Graduates, the research says, have better health. Mind you, the research also says that graduates drink less. But above all, graduates are best placed to deal with change. And I hope many of you, all of you indeed, lead long, long lives. But what that means is that during your lives, the world in which you live will change not once, but many times. You'll have probably not one career, but a number of careers. And you will certainly need to master new skills and new knowledge and to learn afresh. And that's why being a graduate is so important, because you have the skills that equip you to learn. You have the habits of learning. And so today what we're celebrating isn't just what you have achieved. We're also celebrating what you're going to go on to achieve in your future. And our history as an institution dates all the way back to 1843, when we were founded as the wonderfully titled Birmingham Government School of Design. And we were created then to help the manufacturers of what was already becoming one of the great workshops of the world to compete globally. And as you can imagine, over the almost 180 years since then, we've changed often and often. But we've also stayed true to that founding purpose, because we remain focused on learning that makes a difference, learning that makes a difference to the world around us, and ensuring that our graduates all around the world are able to make a difference in their societies. So my challenge to you is absolutely today to celebrate your personal achievement, your personal transformation, but also to see it as part of a broader commitment, a commitment to transforming the world all around you. You'll all have seen the I Am BCU images around our campuses, around the ICC, around the city. And that didn't come from us, that came from you, the students. And when we talked to the students about what did I Am BCU mean, the words that came back to us were pride and confidence, but it was also, above all, about belonging. So I Am BCU isn't just a slogan. It's about being part of an extraordinary family. You'll always be part of our BCU community and part of our outstanding alumni body. But that's enough from me. Today is very much your day. And today is the day when we get finally to celebrate the fact that you achieved what you set out to do all those years ago. And that is remarkable, and I congratulate you. Thank you. I now call upon the Pro-Vice Chancellor and Executive Dean of the Faculty of Health, Education and Life Sciences, Professor Ian Blair, to commence the presentation of award holders, and on the Pro-Chancellor to receive the students.
Pro-Chancellor. As Pro-Vice-Chancellor and Executive Dean, I present students from the Faculty of Health, Education and Life Sciences who have qualified for the award of degrees, diplomas and certificates. I invite Natasha Carr to the lectern to present award holders from the School of Nursing and Midwifery.
Bachelor of Science with Honours in Midwifery, Anita Abel. Gabriella Abrahams. Afka Akhtar. Elizabeth Allen. Misha Allingham. Selina Barker. Angela Barlow. Holly Barnhurst. Charlotte Beasley. Emily Bevis. Lauren Bird. Samantha Blackburn. Emily Blakeway. Holly Bolton. Lucy Brine. Carly Bristow. Amy Butters. Lily Byrne. Trace Byrne. Alexandra Cass. Hayley Charles. Sarang Christie. Soraya Christie. Phoebe Clark. Rhiannon Cole. Rebecca Conroy. Olivia Cox. Juanita Crawford. Bryony Davis. Jennifer Dixon. Emily Edney. Caroline Fury. Rosanna Gleave. Abby Glynn. Rasheen Good. Rachel Green. Tiana Guy. Lisa Gwilt. Wesley Hines. Chloe Jackson. Kimberly Jones. Ruby Jessup. Katrina Keatley. Gabriella Kennedy. Wura Ladipo. Joanna Law. Emily Lund. Karita Makuti. Abigail Nash. Lucy Norcross. Phoebe Parker. Grace Pugh. Ellie Roberts. Mary Ryan. Molly Scarman. Scarlett Scarra. Kirsty Sheriff Wong. Blanche Singh. Hannah Slater. Neve Smith. Amelia Smith. Claire Southall. Jessica Teague. Jessica Thompson. Emma Townshend. Jasmine Taunton. Janelle Tweed. Samantha Tweed. Charlotte Willits. Jasmine Walcott. Shannon Wright. Bachelor of Science in Studies in Healthcare, Lisa Marinu. Sinead McPherson Webley. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Nursing Adult, Zariah Abbas. Aisha Abu Bakar. Aisha Abu Bakar. That's you. A little pause. Faluke Adebayo. Marjorie Iglesias. Oh, one moment. Started a trend. Marjorie Iglesias Agbayani. Thank you. Anna Agneman. Aisha Ahmed. Ujala Ahmed. Tafima Akhtar. Sefra Anderson. Isabella Ade. Genevieve Ara Ayuk Ako. Bajoun Barrow. Alicia Begum. Ruby Begum. Charlene Bent. Halima Bibi. Mackenzie Bolado. Phoebe Bradley Smith. Nicola Brooks. Sandra Bryan. Hannah Butler. Stacey Calder. J.D. Calvert. Roche Campbell. Chesa Chanakira. Grace Chapman. Brighton Chipangura. Kate Cooper. Ricky Cooper. Martin Cordwell. Layla Copeland. Lucy Cosgrove. Lauren Crow. Katie Delaney. Sithabal Dalamini. Hayley Doherty. Kelly Donovan. Shumire Dubert. Gifty Essel. Lucy Fenn. Giselle Fernandez. Lance Franklin. Rotendo Garanaga. Arthur Gordon. Stacey Grant. Jariathu Hamed. Nadia Hamed. Isabel Harris Wilson. Emma Hartles. Emily Harvey. Melissa Heslop. Kyra Hill. Sabrina Eiffel. Amal Jama. Sainab Jama. Zoe Jeffries. Ellen Jennings. Jasdeep Johal. Christopher Johnson. Aisata Kabu Dukure. Yazdeep Kalsai. Tatiana Kamala. Harjinder Kaur. Kiranjit Kaur. Rajneet Kaur. Jessica Kelly. Ramana Khartoon. Ramandeep Kondoli. Chelsea Leyland. Sherelle Leunse. Shanice Linton. Catherine Lord. Jasmine Lucky. Pradeepan Marendraraj. Aisha Mahmood. Shalon Mandiza. Kerry-Ann Mason. Juliet Millard. Esther Morrow. Tayona Mapaya. Hemes Naji. Sandeep O'Brien. Eugenia Ofori. Algriana Passard. Safia Patel. Anwan Pierce. Amy Purcell. Serena Peplow. Gemma Pula. Jessica Price. Sarah Louise Priest. Rhea Randawa. Nabgar Rasib. Sherelle Reed. Hannah Russom. Liam Ryan. Zara Sadiki. Sana Salim. Amandeep Sandal. Faiza Shakil. Sarah Shakil. Halima Sikid Musa. Carly Smythe. Sabina Sultan. Coral Sutcliffe. Genevieve Swatson. Sadia Tariq. Irina Tarumbwa. Jodie Taylor. Shiwid Tesfa Mariam. Rensei Thambi. Jennifer Thomas. Hannah Thompson. Nicola Timmins. Isabel Walker. Catherine Walters. Rosie Walton. Kirsty Warren. Alicia Westley. Sharon Westwood. Esme Whitehouse. James Wildman. Aurora Zuka. And this completes the first presentation of awards to the graduates from the School of Nursing and Midwifery. Thank you.
And this completes the first presentation of graduates from the Faculty of Health, Education and Life Sciences. I now invite the Vice-Chancellor to introduce the recipient of the Honorary Award of Doctor of the University.
We are this afternoon delighted to be conferring the award of Doctor of the University upon Dr. Justin Varney, and I now call upon the Executive Dean to give the citation.
Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, colleagues and graduates, today we confer the degree of Honorary Doctor of Birmingham City University, honoris causa, on Dr. Justin Varney. Ladies and gentlemen, the experience of the past 2 years, the COVID years, has taught us some hard lessons. Lessons in what and who we care about. Lessons in the sacrifices we are prepared to make, or not, for the good of others. Lessons in who we think we are. We've learned something too about this city of Birmingham, about its strengths and its vulnerabilities, and about how disease feeds on poverty, how it thrives in crowded multi-generational households, how our rainbow city of different cultural traditions creates a myriad of responses to lockdown, to face covering and to vaccination. The person in charge of making sense of it all and working with the city's agencies and institutions in the best interests of us all is our guest of honour today, Dr. Justin Varney, Birmingham Director of Public Health. What, may you ask, could possibly prepare you for such a responsibility? Well, this. After training at St Bartholomew's and the Royal London Hospital Medical School, Justin Varney initially worked as a GP. Roles in public health beckoned. He became a consultant in public health medicine at the NHS Barking and Dagenham and joining the National Health and Wellbeing Directorate of Public Health England in 2013. There he led programmes in adult and older persons' health. LGBT inclusion has been a consistent theme in his career. He co-founded the National LGBT Health Summit and was a founding member of the Department of Health's Advisory Group on Sexual Orientation and Gender Identity. Subsequent projects have aimed to address health inequalities among black and ethnic minority gay men. This important work, documented in a series of key publications, led to numerous awards and shortlistings, among them the David Harvey Lifetime Achievement Award in 2017 and the recognition in the Civil Service Diversity Awards in 2018. It was in the spring of 2019 that he became Birmingham City Council's new Director of Public Health. Rarely can it be so truly have been said that cometh the hour, cometh the man. Throughout the pandemic, Justin Varney has led Birmingham's response to this terrible crisis with calmness and clarity. His media appearances have been models of clarity bathed in compassion. As a university, we owe him a particular debt for the time and expertise he has invested in advising on and coordinating our own measures on campus and among our student communities. We thank him warmly for all the time that he has invested in attending meetings that have kept us up to speed with the regional and national developments and ensured that we have kept pace with the very best, the very safest precautions that can be devised. We are able to sit here today is at all thanks in no small part to his efforts. But it is, sadly, in the nature of Justin Varney's role that our own gratitude as a university is not matched everywhere. There has never been a time when true expertise has been more subject to doubters who think that the years of rigorous training are nothing to 5 minutes on Facebook. A contagion of misinformation that works hand in hand with the disease itself. You need resilience to withstand it, but what sort? In a recent article, Justin asked us to reflect on the time-honoured conundrum of the oak and the bamboo. In some versions of the story, it is the bamboo that survives the storm as it bends and twists and springs back, just as the oak comes crashing to the ground. In his version, the oak wins. Its deep roots are your core values. They anchor you in hard times, the branches spread and provide shelter. If the foundations are strong, you go on developing. When you contemplate Justin Varney's career, that seems a perfect metaphor for his extraordinary achievement, and a perfect example to all of our graduates today. Our new generation of health professionals have trained hard in a time of crisis. Many have themselves been at or near the front line. Expert professionals in the making. They can hold their head high in the knowledge that they tread in the footsteps of leaders of their profession, leaders like Justin Varney. So, Pro-Vice-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, colleagues and graduates, it gives me great pleasure to invite the Vice-Chancellor to confer the degree of Honorary Doctor of Birmingham City University, honoris causa, on Justin Varney.
Ladies and gentlemen, as Vice-Chancellor, I just want to say that without Justin's expertise, his accessibility and his support, we couldn't have done what we have done with all of you to keep the university a safe space over the last couple of years. We owe him more than I can possibly say. And I'm therefore delighted to exercise the authority of the university's academic board and to confer the awarded Doctor of the University, honoris causa, on Dr. Justin Varney. And I invite you, Pro-Chancellor, to present the commemorative medal. That completes the conferment of the awarded Doctor of the University honoris causa, and I'm now delighted to invite Justin to address the congregation.
Pro-Chancellor, Vice-Chancellor, distinguished guests, graduands, ladies and gentlemen. Firstly, let me say thank you for this honour. I am deeply touched by it. In accepting this honorary degree, I do so not just for myself, but on behalf of the public health team that I've led at Birmingham City Council and the wider network of partners and people across the city who stood together during the pandemic. It has been perhaps the biggest challenge of my career to date, and I'm somewhat hopeful it will be the biggest challenge of my career until I retire. I'd rather hope we don't get another pandemic in the next 20 years. But we have worked together as a city to survive this pandemic. The cards were truly stacked against Birmingham when it came to COVID. High levels of inequality, chronic disease, the global diversity of our community, the number of us that work in health and social care in jobs that were unable to be done via Zoom or Skype or Teams. All of this said the disease was going to hit us hard and that health and social care was going to have to work exceptionally hard in this city to keep our citizens safe. At the start of the pandemic, I received a call from the Chief Medical Officer in which every director of public health in the country was told roughly what to expect in those first few weeks and months of the first wave of the pandemic. The prediction for Birmingham was 9,000 deaths. That's in the first wave. To date, we have sadly lost just over 3,600 people in this city to COVID. Each of these losses is someone's father, mother, their sister, their friend or colleague, and that's a sad loss. But I take it as a sad victory that we as a city have avoided that horrendous death toll that was predicted at the very start. As students and teachers and as a university, you have stepped up to the challenge of the last 2 years alongside us. Many of you in this room have mobilised onto the wards. Many of you have stepped up volunteering in our community. And it has been really hard. I certainly remember moments when I felt overwhelmed, where I've questioned myself. and when I felt very alone. I remember distinctly standing on the balcony of my flat in the centre of Birmingham and having that moment when I realised that I couldn't save everyone. It was too late. The iceberg had already hit and the ship was sinking. This was no longer the trauma call I trained for in medical school, with the focus wholeheartedly on survival of the patient. Now I was leading the crew of the Titanic, ripping up anything that would float, throwing it in the water and shouting instructions on how to swim to people who had never even wanted to get into the water in the first place. All the while trying to ensure that my team was also safe and they also had a chance of survival. Much of my medical training came to the fore over the last 2 years. The skills about breaking bad news, about giving medical information to patients in ways they could understand, interpret, and respond to. That all translated into the way that I work with the communities of the city. The mental white coat that replaced the physical one kept me focused on projecting a calm and professional approach to my team and to the city, whilst inside I may have felt a whole load of other emotions. I recognized that my job as a doctor had been to give a patient at times dignity and grace in death, rather than fight a battle that I cannot win. And the approach to dealing with the pandemic brought all of those skills to the fore. Often in medical school, and as I worked as a junior doctor in hospitals, I would run into crash calls and suddenly work with a team who I'd never met before. And that all came to bear as well during the pandemic. I built relationships and partnerships with people across the city, and I'm very grateful for everyone who was generous in their approach to working with me in the response. But behind all the professionalism were friends and family. Like many of you, it is those relationships that have kept me going during the pandemic and the last few years. My husband is a local GP, and in some ways we were fortunate in that he went to work every day and left the flat. I'm not sure our marriage would have survived 2 years had he not. But alongside me, he provided support, and we were able to talk about the reality of working in health and healthcare, when people turn to you every day for support when they are scared, when they're alone, when they're afraid. And how that is also a privilege as well as a challenge in terms of the opportunities that we have to support people and to be the people who support them when they need it most. At the heart of our experience has been this team effort. For better or worse, these difficult days over the last 2 years will have helped you form friendships and relationships that you will value for the rest of your career and the rest of your lives. And I encourage you to cherish them. You have joined a team, Team Birmingham, and wherever you go in your career, you will always be part of Team Birmingham. It has been a huge privilege to work with Birmingham City University through the pandemic. I think I've barely been in post a year when I first spoke to Philip and learnt around the university. Certainly through the pandemic, I've learnt much more about the global footprint of the university, but also about the diversity of its students and its real commitment to the citizens of Birmingham and of the West Midlands. And that diversity is reflected in the room and in the graduates who've taken the stage today. And that is something that I would ask you to carry with you as you go out into the world. The values of openness, inclusion, and honesty are something this university epitomizes, and they are values that are really worth keeping. It makes me feel very old to say I graduated over 20 years ago. And it took me 6 years to get my medical degree, which for those of you who are good at maths will notice is slightly longer than normal. It's because I had quite a tricky time with neuroscience. And I have to say, if you asked me to point out the occipital pole of a brain section, I probably still couldn't do it. But I share that because it's important to recognize that all of us have moments in our training where we struggle. All of us will have things that just didn't stick, but it doesn't make us lesser clinicians, and you can still go on and achieve. And those tough times when you've struggled with textbooks and exams, all will fade away because you passed and you graduated today. So as you come to the end of your degrees, please try not to dwell too much on the bad bits. Please cherish the memories of the good bits. And as you step out into the world, be curious and compassionate in your approach. Our local MP, Jess Phillips, said, "I'm not always sure I feel English or British, but I always feel like a Brummie." And I hope your years as part of City University will mean that wherever you go in the future, you will always feel part of the family of the city, and Birmingham will always be somewhere where you can find home and anchor your soul. I wish you well as you start this journey, and I want to finish with the words of Maya Angelou, a woman who I turn to often when I have moments of darkness or concern. She said, "My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humour and some style." So as you step out into the world as graduates today, be bold, be brilliant, and do it with a bit of Brummie style. Thank you.
I now invite Professor Ian Blair to continue the presentation of award holders from the faculty.
I invite Natasha Carr to return to the lectern to continue presentation of award holders from the School of Nursing and Midwifery.
Emanuela Akon. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Nursing Child, Misha Adai. Maniba Ahmed. Sandra Akowa. Leiloma Amini. Libby Armstrong. Kieran Bangera. Regina Bediako. Samina Begum. Prashanta Banji. Zoe Birch. Melanie Blake. Lucy Bonham. Megan Boswell. Amanda Bryce. Fia Buchanan. Rachel Buller. Sophie Burrows. Joanne Carter. Kirsty Cartwright. Kirsty Cassidy. Josephine Chung. Nicole Collins. Honor Crowley. Sophia Cutting. Nadine de Goia Mendiza Jasi. Hannah Davis. Victoria Davis. Hannah Dennis. Laura Earle. Brianna Edwards. Jade Fensom. Leanne Finch. Deborah Forward. Emma Geffen. Sophie Gibbons. Tony Gibbon. Regine Gloria. Caitlin Griffin. Leah Harborn. Elizabeth Harding. Tori Harris. Victoria Harrison. Imogen Haslam. Emily Hazelhurst. Jade Henricus. Lauren Hudson. Hafsa Irfan. Anam Jamil. Alice Jane Johnson. Lauren Jones. Maria Kola. Rose Kosminski. Shukura Lamade. Christabel Bargo Kwarteng. Jemiah Lenny. Ana Lorenzo Andreda da Silva Viagas. Thank you.
Yes! That's my friend!
Hannah Manning. Fatu Mubai. Katam Nua. Yasmin Osman. Saba Parveen. Reena Patel. Ursula Pitt. Tyra Powell. Laura Pugh. Neha Raja. Charlotte Rawlings. Emily Rhodes. Afshan Salim. Fahana Salou. Deborah San Cristobal. Emma Sanger. Naomi Smith. Kiana Sullivan. Catherine Thompson. Naomi Thorpe. Naomi Chumberriman. Belinda Walden. Ellie White. Lucy Whiting. Sarah Williams. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Nursing, Learning Disabilities, Kitty Boner. Quincy Chiduza. Mercy Maitware. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Nursing Mental Health. Kainite Ahmed. Shabna Akhtar. Freya Allahand. Nicole Augustine. Baria Bibi. Shingai Chirinda. Trish Chari. Jessica Donnelly. Rachel Conaghan. Angela Conyard. Melissa Gilligan. Rachel Hughes. Jerry Hunter. Barbara Jinga. Ricky Kelsey. Miran Khan. Ryan Lilly. Mishek Makikanyanga. Pananshe Mafura. Jenny Louise Moran. Armenat Ogunsai. Matilda Osiai. David Azumba. Daniel Parks. Daniel Statham. Bachelor of Science with Honours in Professional Practice, Healthcare, Emily Jane Patrick. Bachelor of Science in Acute Care, Janet Gale. Bachelor of Science in Professional Practice, Acute Care, Daniel Johnson. Sophie Raymond. Oh. Bachelor of Science in Professional Practice, Cancer Care, Morenike Agrebe Shola. Chanel Dorma. Bachelor of Science in Professional Practice, Cardiac Care, Philippa Madden. Bachelor of Science in Professional Practice, Child, Adolescents and Young Adult Mental Health, Claire Harris. Bachelor of Science in Professional Practice, Healthcare, Tina Andrews. Janice Elisa Davidson. Colleen Francis. Nicola Kemp. Freedy Levine. Ormola Ormotasho. Michelle Roberts. Sarah Simmons. Rona Ward. Bachelor of Science in Professional Practice, Infection Prevention Control, Jermaine Lennon. Mercy Nahari. Bachelor of Science in Professional Practice, Neonatal Critical Care, Karen Brown. Jodie Butler. Sarjit Mandir. Graduate Diploma in Midwifery, Amtula Abdirizak. Kerry Allen. Farah Benson. Lucy Cronin. Catriona Halliday. Bianca Headlam Williamson. Alice Bagley. Bachelor of Science in Professional Practice, Cardiac Care, Kathleen Jackson Smith. Anna Lowe. This completes the second presentation of awards to graduates from the School of Nursing and Midwifery.
And this completes the presentation of graduates from the Faculty of Health, Education and Life Sciences. I now invite Alex Cass, who has graduated with a Bachelor of Science with Honours in Midwifery this afternoon, to address the congregation.
Hiya. Good afternoon and welcome to friends, family, staff and fellow graduates of 2022. It's a great honour to be asked to speak to you today. It's a special day for me and my family, just as I'm sure it is for all of you here today at the culmination of our studies. I'd like to begin by thanking our Pro-Chancellor and other academic colleagues for giving up their time today to join us as we celebrate our academic achievements. So I've been asked today to tell you about my experiences studying midwifery at BCU. And I love an analogy. And as a midwife, my favourite sort of analogies are always about pregnancy and birth. So today, drawing on my own experiences as a student and a mother of two little boys, Evan and Jamie, I'll tell you about how studying midwifery for 3 years is much like the 3 trimesters of pregnancy and how graduation is a bit like birth. Stick with me. So the first trimester, the first year, can come as a bit of a shock to the system. For some, it's been a long time coming, the results of years of dreaming, trying, hoping. The idea of what you're about to do is a little bit terrifying, but is in equal parts exciting. A sense of anticipation sets in, although the end still feels like a very long way off. Sometimes you feel nauseous, and the huge changes to your life might leave you feeling exhausted as you heed the call of your duvet after long days in lectures or on placement. At this stage, cravings for high-calorie snacks at unsociable hours, most often devoured over books about pregnancy and birth, may develop. You're eating for 2 now, after all. As a side note, no amount of eating ginger makes this phase any easier, but finding friends who are on the same journey with you definitely does. In the second trimester, or the second year, you've settled in a little bit more to the idea of what's to come now. What were once nervous butterfly flutters in your tummy become more sure and certain thumps during this period of huge personal growth. Inside, somebody new is becoming. You nervously await results of various tests and hope that everything's going to work out okay and that you get the results that you want. Loved ones reassure you and tell you their own stories, which is sometimes helpful and sometimes not. A shift in your centre of gravity and a change of priorities means that non-sensible footwear is no longer an option. Comfort is key now, and anyone who's had the pleasure of donning a pair of Clark's Unloops for 3 back-to-back night shifts will know what I'm talking about. You'll start to wonder where time's going and how on earth have you made it this far already? Then comes the 3rd trimester, the 3rd year. Swollen ankles after long days are worn like badges of honour. You're a veteran student on the ward now. Be warned though, for many, including me, sadly, this is a period of very rapid weight gain. Thanks to all those late night library snacks. Elasticated waistbands are now your best friend. On the bad days, there's worry, fatigue, and sleepless nights. You wonder whether this will ever end, whether you'll ever be up for the job. On the good days, you feel proud, you plan for exciting times ahead, and you feel a sensation of lightening the load as you tick off all the things that you need to get done before your journey ends. You start to think now that maybe, just maybe, you might be ready. Maybe you can do this after all. Things will start to become a little bit real as you edge towards the main event, the rite of passage, the birth. Leaving behind the familiar comfort of pregnancy, the safety of the lecture theatre and clinical simulations, the reassuring words of your lecturers and loved ones, you step alone into the unknown. Birth, however it plays out, requires every ounce of your concentration and resolve. It requires you to dig into the deepest corners of your soul to find new strength and self-belief. It's not always straightforward, and sometimes it can be painful. But one thing is for sure, it's undeniably, completely and utterly worth it. The payoff is priceless, it's precious, and it's all yours forever. And so here you are, at the end of one story and the beginning of another. Thrust into existence, a new version of yourself now has been born into the world. You made a whole new person who, before all of this madness happened, you had no idea was hidden, waiting inside of you. You had no idea that you were capable of creating them. But now you know what you're truly capable of. And of course, this is where the real adventure begins. So as we set out on the next stage of our lives, we're still individuals with our own distinct ambitions, but we're also united as the graduates of 2022, a permanent part of our university's history. Congratulations to you all. I now invite the Pro-Chancellor to close the ceremony. Thank you.
I actually think that very imaginative contribution deserves an even larger. Well done, Alex. And while we're on the note of thank yous, could I take this opportunity, please, to invite you to thank our musicians from the Royal Birmingham Conservatoire. Well, my personal congratulations to all those of you receiving awards today, and I offer my very best wishes to you all for the future, whatever that may bring. I know better than most now not to stand in your way one moment longer, because I'm sure celebrations beckon with families and friends. So I now declare this congregation closed, and we'd be very grateful if you would please stand and remain in your places while the stage procession leaves the hall. Thank you very much for your attendance.